to start.
All right, yes, sir.
I want to call to order the 233rd meeting of the Equal Employment Practices Commission. The first thing on the agenda are introductions. I would like to introduce everybody to our chair.
Hi, my name is Sasha Ahuja. I was recently appointed to chair the Equal Employment Practices Commission. Very excited to do this work with you.
Okay. I'm Elaine Reese, Commissioner,
Melanie Kadami-Daniel, Commissioner. Barbara Rice, Commissioner.
and we are waiting the arrival of Angela Cabrera, Commissioner, who is on her way. Next on the agenda are the approval of minutes. I would ask that I get a vote on the meeting minutes of July 11th, 2019.
I move to approve. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Okay. New business, the chair's invitation for the panel city's public hearing on pay equity.
Great, so next week, a week from today, on September 19th, the Commission on Human Rights, the Commission on Gender Equity, and the new Department of Consumer Affairs and Worker Protection, or newly named, are hosting a joint public hearing on pay equity in the city. They have asked me to serve on the panel to listen to the testimony of workers across the city, talk about their experiences with pay equity or lack thereof. It is a public forum, an event for us to gather data and to understand better the experiences of workers. So it's an open invitation for the EEPC to participate, and of course then a public invitation is out in the ether.
What was the date again?
September 19th, so a week from today.
I have real trouble with our speaking on something without, I mean, what we are an auditing facility. We don't have, we have a generalized point of view is that there should be pay equity, but I don't think we ought to be opining in public on something that we need to audit, and until we know that it is lacking. I mean, in fairness to all of us, I think I would be surprised if it was not lacking. That being said, I don't think we should be publicly opining about something that we don't have all the data on, and that our point of view is it should not exist. You don't have to sit on a panel to say that.
Sure, yes.
And I have a real problem with our being publicly counted before we have all the data. And so if you were to ask me, it's a very nice invitation. It's very kind of them to ask us, but we're not prepared to appear until we know more about the issue.
And just perhaps I've misrepresented the invitation. The invitation is to sit to listen to the experiences of folks who show up.
I think you can listen, but not be on the panels. There's no question that you're perfectly willing to attend, and they can recognize you as being in attendance. I don't have any problem with that, but I think, I personally, for whatever, I don't want us to be in this dreadful position of having said X here publicly and then having to do Y, or having to find ourselves doing Y later. And among other things, you are one of 5 votes, so we haven't voted on that. Therefore, I don't know that there's really an EEPC position. So, that's where I come from personally. I don't know what the other two members of the commission that are here believe, but that's my fairly strongly held position.
We discussed it, and one of the things that we discussed, and you could elaborate on this, was this could be a really good opportunity for us to request salary information and say that this is the reason that we couldn't participate, maybe, and maybe at a time when we're informed because we've collected and analyzed salary information and we can produce some pointed questions. At that point, then maybe we can participate, and so that was basically what the chair was kind of bringing to the commission members.
Yeah, I think it's more of an opportunity in that way to just sort of like say, this is the work that the EEPC does, and that we could be doing more around this particular issue, but you know, like the information or data that could be shared would be great, and that we, just doing more collaborative work with different parts of the city around this is hugely important, and I think could be incredibly informative. So I am not like a hard no on this, it's more just like I think it's a great bridge building opportunity in different ways.
Right.
I also
But
don't
in
think we need to
what
vote
way?
on this. Huh? Yeah, no, right, but it's just like, we want the data, but we have to be clear about what our roles and responsibilities and mandates are, and what we can and cannot do, and not overpromise what we could do, is what I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think if we don't have pay information within the next week, I would hate for you to walk into a situation where there are questions being asked or there are comments being made about certain outcomes pertaining to data that they have and we have no clue.
Sure.
So it's sort of the preparation thing that
Yeah.
I'm concerned about, and it's only a week out.
Well, it
And I think
seems-
they asked you with 2 weeks' notice, is it 2 weeks' notice that?
Maybe 2.5, yeah.
It seems to me that you can do both things, which is to satisfy me, and that is to say, I'm happy to be there, but I don't have the data, so I can't
Right.
give you any opinions. I can tell you what we're prepared to do with the right data, but I'm not prepared to answer any questions because I don't have the information.
Sure.
I mean, that can be a response. I'll be there, but I can't participate beyond X.
It can be, I just think, how would it look?
I'm sorry, I have a clarifying question around this, and my apologies, I'm a little bit fuzzy because I've received invitations for this from the gender-based grouping of people as well. And so I'm just wondering, is what this is, right? So you mentioned a panel, but then you talked about the workers that were presenting, and so I'm not sure what it is we've been I'm just
Sure.
unclear.
Yeah.
And then also September 19th, is it in the morning, so it is a meeting of government folks, or is it is it a meeting in the evening
Yeah.
where it's the actual workers presentation, right? So it's a different type of presentation based on that?
Sure.
And like I said, I should know that because I've gotten an invitation on the other side that really I have not read my emails. As I should have, sorry.
No, please don't apologize. It's an evening event, 6 p.m. It's a public it's sort of being framed as a public hearing on pay equity with various commissioners listening to the testimony of participants, people who opted to show up. What I think perhaps the issue that we're naming is should there be an opening statement or like a moment for the folks that are listening, other commissioners, and potentially myself as chair, what information are we prepared to share about what the role is of the particular agency that we're representing, which I know is sort of a point of
We're perfectly willing to say what we do,
Sure.
but what we can't do is opine on pay equity because we don't have any data.
And I don't expect to opine, or even that other commissioners necessarily will be,
Well, they may be able to.
I don't know from the vantage point that, like, for example, what might the Commission on Human Rights be saying about pay equity, other than there are protections in the law, in our city's human rights law, around discrimination as it relates to pay and salary history. Perhaps they could name,
But I think they may have some cases.
I don't know that they would publicly opine on those cases.
Well,
The
don't
thing
expect
is it in our purview to look at pay information? And if it is, why don't we have it?
Sure.
Which we've requested, but haven't had access to.
I would love to use this opportunity
So,
to make
right,
the case.
that's
Yeah. Because this is
the case
yeah.
for saying, we could be doing this, but we would be doing it blindly. So that's my concern.
well, let me ask the question differently. Do we have any concern about publicly airing the fact that data which we should have been getting on a regular
Either.
basis has not been forthcoming? Is that something we wish to expose publicly? Because this is a public forum.
Sure.
I don't know the answer to the question. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to do it, but then, that's me. But that's one of the repercussions from it. But that is, and so is this a public forum raising it, but having said that, we know that we have not been getting fed regularly by, the entity that should be feeding us, so that our analytical work is hindered by not having access to this data. that's the reason that I have a problem with us even appearing when it has the appearances of us having that. If what we're doing is being not a participant in the panel, but rather an observer of the panel, which is a role clearly as any one of us could play. But as chair, what you'd like to indicate is how we would function if we had the data, and the data itself has not been forthcoming. You can do that without indicating who it's not been forthcoming from, except let us not be foolish here.
Sure.
Someone's gonna ask you, where would it come from and why haven't you been receiving it? Because the minute you open the question up, that's gonna respond. Are we prepared to respond that in a public forum? I don't know the answer.
I don't think it has to be antagonistic, I just think it's an opportunity.
But it's not, you are exposing the failure of another agency to feed you.
You don't have to, I don't know if I would use the place and that time to call out individual agencies, but just put it out there that the EPC has the capacity to look at city pay, and that tied with the other work that we do, where this is part of our mandate, is to look at hiring, promotion, and retention, that pay is a significant part of that, and having timely, accurate data would be helpful in this assessment. We don't have to point fingers in this public forum. That's what I would do. I would not name names.
But someone will ask, why haven't you done it if it's in your purview?
And then we should just.
But what will they though? Because I totally completely understand what you're saying. Cause you're saying, we could do this job, but we're not getting what we need in order to do the job, right?
Sure.
But it's not, that's why I'm trying to figure out the structure. It's not like you have Corey Johnson then doing a follow-up question and saying, well, why do you not have that?
Right.
You know what I mean? I think this is based on what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like it is the forum where you're going to have people then coming back and saying, why do you not have that?
It's not a
Except I
hearing.
think
It's
we
not a
have to,
hearing.
well, except that you have to be prepared for someone in this asking that question. Arby, you're maybe right, it may
Right.
never come up, but you have to be prepared for that to come up, and then what?
And also, we have to be careful with opening up a forum for the public, for us to sit on a panel and the public to think that we can impact the issue that they're talking about, right? So these are individuals. Our mandate is pretty much policies and programs. So collectively, yeah, we look at information in aggregate, but what image are we projecting to the people that are testifying? What can the EPC do about their issue, right? So why are we there?
But I actually think that's the wrong way. It's like, we can't address individual issues and complaints and that sort of thing. That is not, and I think that's part of the opportunity to talk about what our mandate is, but that we are part of transparency and some ability to analyze in the aggregate, and I think that's where agencies then get to acknowledge and address these issues. And so we're not coming at it from the individual worker perspective, we are coming at it from the city agency perspective and city agencies in an aggregate. So I just feel like that's, if you're suggesting this is not a good forum for us to be present at, that's fine, like I'm not arguing for it, but I'm just saying we should be describing it in terms of like the work that we do and our ability to impact.
I think it's a great forum for us to be interested, to be present at if we're prepared, if we have our objective perspective of the issue. And I don't know that we have that because our perspective wouldn't be driven by data. So,
Why not?
because we don't have it.
No,
Objective.
our perspective is driven by data there, but we
If
do
we
not.
were there is what I mean.
We do
Right.
not have the data to prove
Right.
that there is an inequitable situation within the city. We have some assumptions or presumptions, but we do not have the data.
So here's my thing, we have the ability to collect quantitative data that can actually produce questions about why this is happening. We can sit there and we can listen, it's qualitative and it's maybe individual experiences, I don't know what format may be used, but we can listen to individual experiences. But how is that helpful to us and what are we saying about the individual experiences? So that's what bothers me, and it only bothers me because we're not prepared.
Sure.
If we had this stuff,
Yeah.
then I think it would be great. But I just wonder what would we be saying, and other than saying, well, you know, we look at programs and we look at information in aggregate.
I have
What else would we be saying? And I would want for her to be able to say have meaningful
Yeah.
responses.
Absolutely.
ARPA,
Right.
how were you invited and why?
I remember I initially looked it up. I sit on another commission, and so the other commission is looking at, gender-based issues, and so that's the commission that I was invited to participate in the forum, but I believe in that capacity, I'm there attending a hearing. You know, I'm just,
Did they indicate in the letter at all that there were going to be questions and answers?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
did
that's-
not-
that's
yeah, I
what-
didn't receive that information at all, that there would be questions and answers to.
No, but
Commissioners.
they're asking you to do a different thing, and I'm just very curious as to,
In terms
You
of
would
like the
be
public
on the panel.
invitation, yeah, I understand.
I'm just trying to ask, because she's appearing as part of the audience.
I don't know if folks heard, but there was a $15 million settlement last month, with 2,000 workers who alleged bias in city agencies. I don't know if it's in particular departments, but basically, and I heard this from somebody else, so I just looked it up. One of the unions that the city deals with alleged that when there was one demographic group that was in managerial titles, there was the pay was a lot higher, and the pay differential between management and the supervised staff was there was a much higher disparity. And as another demographic and gender started to rise into those positions, that collapsed, and there's now very little pay differential between management and supervised staff. And so there was literally just a couple weeks ago, they got a $15 million settlement due in December. So and I'm happy to share this article, because I think that's gonna come up, and that's exactly where we could have pointed out something like this, because we do look at things in an aggregate, right? You would have, if we had had this data 3 years ago, 5 years ago, you would have seen this, it sounds like there was such a disparity, that we would have seen this as an agency, and I think something like that is interesting.
I think, so that's why I think it's important to use this as leverage to say,
Yeah.
we need it.
Yeah.
And perhaps it would be, I would participate, but I couldn't unless I have this. And so,
Maybe that's
Right.
the preface. I can't opine because I don't have the data. But I would opine because what we do is do X in the aggregate, and we would have found Y, and so maybe this lawsuit wouldn't have happened.
so this also goes back to the scenario you just brought up. We were just talking about it actually, Jen and I, about the fact that the employment practices audits are really the audits that, I guess, uncover this type of information. So when we made the decision to do the sexual harassment audits, we sort of had to kind of abandon that for a minute, because we're now doing the hot topic. So I think when we get back to looking at the employment practices, which is the recruitment, the selection, the promotions,
Promotion will
things
lead
of
us to,
that nature.
promotion will lead us to pay
Right.
equity.
then we'll really get into, and if we request it now, when we're ready to do that at the end of next year, we will be able to make meaningful statements about this issue.
And my understanding
Why
is
don't we
that
use the opportunity of the new chair making the request?
Yeah.
I'm happy to. My understanding is that the only city reports or data collection on pay equity in the recent past, there was a controller report by John Liu when he was controller, and then I believe the public advocate, former public advocate, put out a report that was more so this citywide rather than the city's, more.
She did,
Yeah,
that
that was,
but,
yeah,
yeah,
it was
but-
policy recommendations.
yeah, but
policy.
it was,
And
wasn't,
did
it
focus on
wasn't about
others.
pay equity necessarily.
We get, sort of raw information from the citywide equal opportunity database. We've also asked for,
But the seeds data for a long time that we got was old.
no, they've updated it. And now we get, and we even get complaint information now. But we've also asked for access to, I think it's PMS, which is the personnel management system. In terms of viewing salary information, we were denied, this was really early in, I guess, my tenure, when I decided to ask for the information. We have a different chief diversity officer with the city now, so we can try again. I'm not sure
Who's the
what,
city's chief diversity officer?
Sylvia Montalban. So I think we should try again, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to try.
Agreed. I mean, as I just said, I'll repeat myself, I think promotion and pay equity are linked. And that
Agreed.
the lawsuit would
Agreed.
indicate, so the minute the managers go up, it's why the pay for doctors has gone down, but meanwhile 50% of the doctors and the people, students are female. I don't know that they're related. Teacher pay is what it is, it's all female staff. I have no idea whether it's related.
We began to do this with our occupational segregation,
Right.
stuff, and then
Yes.
we ended up doing sexual harassment. But I think this sort of work is fascinating, the pay equity and the occupational segregation.
Well, and sexual harassment does play a role in it.
True.
It does.
We'll know how much of a role when we're done with this audit cycle.
Yes, we will.
So I guess the question is, do you feel comfortable doing this, and what would be the consensus of the commission?
Well, I must admit, I'm still where I was, which is, I think, the way, it's a personal vote. But I think, I would be far more comfortable, I'm not telling you not to go. It isn't what role do you go, and I don't know how you can participate and giving opinions when we don't have the data, so I'm perfectly happy to have you there, indicate what our mission is, indicate what you might be able to have done had we had the data in place so that you could give opinions, but that you want to listen to what the issues are and what the problems are and take it back to the commission. Happy, I mean, but I think you need to explain to the people that you've invited, who have invited you, that that's the role that you would play, and see whether or not that's okay with them. They may find that that's not what they want you to do, and you still go, and you still have the opportunity of being there and ask for the ability to address the group. I mean, I'm certainly not saying don't appear, and I think it does give you the opportunity of outreach to your peers in the new role that you are in.
Sure.
But on the other hand, I'm concerned that we not be quoted as saying something that we will be sorry about at a later date, at a future time.
Sure.
So that's me. That may or may not be where everybody else is.
Commissioner Dan,
Rebuttal? No, I've made my points.
I think, yeah, definitely, making clear, if you are there,
Sure.
that we're pretty much in an observer role, and that we're exploring this information currently.
Yeah.
And so this can inform, I guess, your approach to the information. part of the commission, something like that. Being neutral, not offending the people that invited you if you do participate,
Yeah.
by saying, you guys didn't give me the information,
Right, right.
but I don't know, I think that could be helpful.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I'll communicate that with, the way that you described, to the invitees and make that clear. And if there's any issue that raises further conflict, I'll opt out and,
Yeah.
and let y'all know.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
I definitely think this is a great way of getting.
I would like to leverage this opportunity.
Really?
Yes. So perhaps we can strategize around that,
Yes.
following the actual.
I can draft it.
Okay, resolution 2019 / next on the agenda.
Oh, right, so, next on the agenda is the resolution pertaining to the chair's recusal from the council, because of prior employment and the appointment during.
Start off again, sweetie, loud.
So, this is a resolution pertaining to,
Yes.
yes,
Sorry.
pertaining to the chair's recusal from the audit of the city council. This is a precedent that the APC has. Commissioner, Reese recuses herself from CUNY, audits because you serve
That's
on
a
the board.
CUNY Civil Service
Right.
Commission, so I could not vote on them. I think I also didn't vote on Jewett,
Right, so, because she was
General
employed
Counsel by
previously.
Jewett.
Right. Since you were employed at the time of the audit, during the audit period.
Yep.
That we're auditing, and plus, because you were appointed by the council during the audit, then, it's appropriate for you to recuse yourself.
Absolutely.
We're just doing this as a record, so that if anyone pulls, if there's a record that you were employed there, there's a record that you were appointed here during the audit, so now there's a record that you've recused yourself from, decisions pertaining to the city council audit. So,
Based on
Commissioner
that explanation by the executive director, I would take a vote on the recusal.
A vote on the recusal?
Yeah, why
I
do you
think
think
it's
it's on?
just.
It's a resolution.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It's number, it's letter B.
It's resolution 2019 / 233 R1.
Right, why is it a resolution?
because of the fact that it was a record, there's a record that the chair was employed there during the audit period. And there's a record that the chair was appointed during the audit. So it's a little bit different in that these things are happening at the same time, that the audit, there's an intricate involvement during the audit period and while the audit is happening, so it's a little bit different.
Best, it is making sure that everybody is protected.
It maintains the integrity of the audit to say, here, look, right here, you know, so,
Do you wanna read it into the record, or is it sufficient to have the executive director's explanation?
is this the FD resolution or the recusal resolution? Which one is this?
I can't see. That's the FD resolution. That's the FD resolution for the city council audit. This is the
Ah.
resolution.
Okay, so, all the commission members can sign this one, you can sign it.
Thank you.
Send it around.
Do we vote on it before signing?
Yes.
Great, and should.
Well, yes.
Wow.
Thank you, but I don't need it anymore right now. So, do we want to
Chair can hang the
read it
gavel.
before, read it into the record, or do we want us just to vote on it? I would call a vote based on your explanation, but if the commissioners want to read it, we should have them read it, and then we can vote on it. Meanwhile, we can come to
We can
something.
read it into the record.
You can read the number and we can vote on it.
Okay, you can read the number and vote on it.
I'm sorry?
Read the
You can
number
read the
and
number.
vote on it.
Okay. Resolution number 2019 / 233 RI refusal of the chair from the audit of the New York City Council.
I move to approve.
I
And,
second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. That resolution has been approved, I am now going to sign it.
Gavel.
Do you want me to gavel every time we approve something?
Yeah, it would be nice.
That's
a lot of gaveling
gavel
on
every
this
time you
agenda.
approve something,
That's a lot of gavel.
a lot of gaveling. Well, no, I'll read them all together in one gavel. I mean, my hand will get tired. Okay. Next on new business number 4C is strategic plan proposal.
Sure. So I was in conversation with the executive director about the possibility of the commission pursuing a near-term strategic planning process, knowing that, as in the case with the sexual harassment audit, new things emerge all the time, and perhaps sometimes, strategic plans are as good as we can predict the future. However, there's been a wealth of work that the commission has done, and perhaps a North Star of some sort, at least through the current mayoral term that we might set, perhaps just after that. We just want to open up a dialogue as to how that sits, knowing that much needs to be figured out around a proposal, knowing that there's multiple stakeholders that would be involved, of course the staff, commissioners, perhaps external stakeholders. So wanted to float the idea and perhaps come back at the next meeting with a process that we might pursue. That's work that the executive director and I would do to present to the commission.
I think that's a really interesting, good idea. I don't think we've ever done that. I don't know if you've done that in previous years. You have done it in previous years?
Commissioner Reese did, the commission did a
strategic
strategic
plan.
plan. It was like maybe, it was like a,
Like
an
we spent
outline, it could have
hours?
been like a,
Oh,
Commissioner Reese worked on it. It was like maybe a page or so.
okay, but it
was
wasn't
when I
like
first started,
I see.
and I have one, I'm
Mhm.
running one that's sort of like internal.
But you're talking about more of a process that involves a larger group to sort of think through
Yeah,
a number of issues.
I'm mindful that sometimes these processes become as burdensome as the output of the product, and then the world changes, and then actually the plans change. So what I would love to think about is, could we, executive director's done this process, or has participated in a process similar before. There's like internal processes, infrastructure, operations focus that are actively being pursued. Could we sort of name those in something that is perhaps more of a public document, but solicit some external feedback as well, knowing that staff should participate, we should all participate, and perhaps there are external stakeholders to also offer some feedback. I don't imagine a particularly cumbersome process, but one that sets
No,
an
I think
agenda.
it's a terrific idea. We could look at, we've been trying to get charter revision changes, which we have not been able to get. We have no teeth. It's literally, we would love to have something that would make our recommendations followed, because someone couldn't hire, which was Teresa's suggestion a long time ago, so that if you didn't follow our recommendations, you couldn't hire new staff until you followed them. I mean, it's not onerous, but we didn't get a hearing. I would like us to look at our mission, really start off there as to whether or not it's appropriate in this time and age, or should it be widened? Should we look beyond just the legislation? Is there something else we can do? Something else we should be doing? I think involving other stakeholders is a good idea. I'm not quite sure how I define the stakeholders, which is, I think, a really difficult problem as to who the representation of those stakeholders are. I don't have a problem at all with doing a strategic plan. I think it makes you honest.
I'm a little flummoxed at the idea of a strategic plan. And I think that maybe I'm thinking about it in its most traditional terms, right? So when I think about a strategic plan, I think about it as a visioning process for an organization to look at its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, to have external stakeholders, and to be able to make sure that the organization is meeting its current needs, or if it's meeting emerging needs, right? So that's what I think about when I think about a strategic planning process. When I think about this commission, I think about an entity that has a government instituted mandate to do something, right? And so I am not sure if we decided that there was something that was beyond what we could do, that would be interesting, we could all decide it, but I am not sure
We
how,
could do it.
how we could do that, right?
Sure.
And like what you were saying about the external, stakeholders, like who are the stakeholders of a government agency?
Yeah.
Right.
Right, like I
The
don't know how you
employees
do-
essentially,
Yeah, so
and
I'm not
therefore
sure-
who represents them.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how to define that, so I'm flummoxed by it, because because I think that it's always best to be strategic and to do planning, right? So to do strategic planning, yes, absolutely, we should do that, yes, but I'm a little bit like, because I'm not sure how the traditional pieces of a strategic plan could be, put into what is what I believe
I'm
is
glad
the
you said that.
reality of the Equal Employment Practices Commission.
I'm actually glad you said that because that has been my battle. And I have done a SWOT analysis and it points internally and it says where we need to go and what we need to do to meet our government mandate. That's exactly what our strategic plan is about. We do have some pieces that say, okay, and this is the piece I'm working on, like we wanna bring every agency from wherever they are to like at least 90%, like best practices or something like that. Or we want 98% compliance because maybe there's like one agency that just refuses to do what we. So those things help us understand what we're doing the work for and what approaches to take. If our goal is to bring agencies, 98% of the agencies to compliance, or 100, but understanding that maybe there's one agency who are just not gonna move, then that puts things into context for us. But primarily, we're looking at the charter and we're saying, how are we gonna do these audits and how are we gonna handle local law 13 and plus still do a conference or a hearing on some issue. And with 13 people, it's just really difficult to give attention to every single thing, so it just ends up being, at least get the audits done. And at least get your annual report done, and
Right.
at least get, maybe we can have a hearing, but maybe we'll, tackle some other issue, that may be new and coming, and we may develop another audit for that. But, having the research unit now helps us leverage the audit information to maybe do other things and address other pieces of the charter, like making recommendations to the mayor or the council. So it's all, the planning is all around approaching the mandate, pretty much, like what you just said. It's really difficult for me to, and I don't, quite frankly, wanna invite other people to say, the APC should be doing this. Even though I do think it's valuable to have the input from external stakeholders, because, for example, maybe the council or some member of the Charter Revision Commission may be able to say, you know what, maybe if you frame it this way, then it's more, I don't know, palatable to people that need to vote on this issue or whatever.
I'm somewhat simplistic, and that is to say that we know what our government mandate is. We can't really alter our government mandate except through charter revision. But it might be useful to look at whether or not that government mandate, which was written in the 1960s, when the charter revision was done, is something that itself should be looked at, and should be looked at what would be more timely for us to be doing. Whether there's some other thing, other acts or actions that we might recommend to have, to be changed, but to go big, to go to the big step, not the little steps, which is, we need better remedies, but really looking at, should our undertaking be accelerated, should it be larger, should it be smaller, should it be made in a different manner so that we have a better ability to cope with the city's largest workforce, which is what it is. The largest group of employees within the city of New York work for the city of New York.
a reinventing of ourselves in a sense?
essentially that.
And who would we,
Well, I think I think you start internally and try to figure out whether or not there's any need, whether the people here believe that, including the commissioners, think there's any real need to look at reinventing.
no, I
And
get
maybe you
that,
don't.
and I think we
Move
began
beyond
to
that?
sort of do it in the to suggest in the charter revision commissions, and I agree. But who are we
Who would we talk to?
marketing it to?
Oh, when we see what we got, market it to the city council and the
Sure.
mayor and try to see whether or not you can get some political support for making the changes. I think our problem with not being recognized by the mayor's city charter commission, because they're always appointed by the mayor, is that the mayor always has an agenda that the charter revision commission deals with. I've been there, I've served on one. I mean, the issue becomes, can you capture or the passion of some of the politicos to undertake, to see that there is this need and to see that what is Frozen in Time, written by Fritz Schwartz in response to a United States Supreme Court finding that the council of that, or the Board of Estimate was not democratic and therefore wrote a new charter giving power to the city council. Whether or not, in fact, things have changed and the history has changed, it's well over 50 years ago. Maybe it's time to look at the issues. I mean, gender equity is not even mentioned in it. Perhaps that is something that you look at and think about amplifying. I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're gonna do it at all, I'd start at the top.
Yeah, which makes me torn. Like, I think it could be really powerful. Like, I think it'd be really powerful to take the opportunity to do, like, I totally completely get where you're coming from, right? Like, I get it. And then I'm just like, and then at the end, I can't believe that there wouldn't be things that we would want to adjust or think about or be more strategic about, because we're an incredible group of fantastic women, so of course we will, right? So we're of course gonna come up with some great stuff. But then, you know, like, how and where does it go?
Well,
So
there's
that's
a
why-
That's my
mayoralty,
thing.
there is a mayoralty, election coming up. So if there's a political time, it's not next year, it's in a couple of years. They're all positioning now for support, and maybe you find yourself a couple of candidates that buy in. I mean, maybe Scott Stringer buys in, I can't tell you whether he does or doesn't. I haven't spoken to him about it. But if we do the thought process and
Yes,
show. Angela, better late than never.
Oh my God.
Welcome,
I'm usually the
welcome.
first one here.
I know, that's why we knew you weren't coming, we were late.
It's always the first one here.
I wonder if we can lay out some options or ways of thinking about this as a point of, I'm just gonna note the time also, and all these new business items took up quite a bit of time, but I wonder if we can maybe lay out some ways of thinking about this together and continue the conversation. I think this.
Well, I would
Yeah.
suggest that we just take from the charter the language that establishes us and that it be sent around to each of the commissioners. Let us just look at it and see whether or not
As a first step.
that meets our needs today and whether or not that ends the discussion.
Sure.
But because that's where I would start. I mean, if we were set in place in a certain period of time, do those words currently describe what the world is like today and whether or not that gives us enough leverage to act with the new world, in the new world. I don't know the answer to the question, I haven't read it in a long time. Maybe that's where we start, and maybe that begins to answer Arva's question, which is what do you do with it? Maybe there is not anything to change and therefore nothing to do with it. Maybe there is. I don't know. So that's what I would do. So before the next meeting, we should all read it, think about it, and come back with a point of view. How's that?
I can also send our suggestions to the charter revision commissions.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, because,
But that's the bottom of it all, but yeah,
Did you
no, but it actually,
it wasn't the mission, it was the
Are
actual
there
thing.
suggestions to both the mayor's and the council's
yes,
processes?
I can
I
send
would
both,
love to
but
do
it's
that.
it actually makes our mandate sort of broader.
Right.
Okay.
So,
It
Yeah.
speaks to a mission.
Right, in that,
Okay,
we can
So,
imagine,
okay.
you know, we can make a vision.
yep, we
Okay.
did do a lot of work on it.
Yes.
Is that it, for the new business? Okay.
Okay, audit update.
Status of the sexual harassment prevention and response practices in community board audits.
Okay, so, see this number here? It says 35.
Alright.
Uh, And we're not even, we're in September. So I'm really excited about seeing the processes that we've implemented internally actually working and being able to be more efficient and handle things faster and employ people that I love this lady. That actually can take the bull by the horns, and Jen has really been an asset in pushing things along when I'm distracted, or she can just stand in places where I don't need to be all of a sudden, so I'm just really grateful for that. And we're up to 35 agencies, so you have a lot of agencies to vote on today. You have
I'm
11.
I'm perfectly happy to do that, but I think we should give the chair some background. So, why don't you do that?
Other than I've already.
No, does she know about why the
I've
numbers
met
so,
with, we've had
Yes.
personal
she knows,
meetings.
she knows why the numbers so important to us?
Yes, yes,
Right.
yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So currently, we have 8 I'll let you talk about the compliance monitoring.
Well,
Well,
let me do
we-
do you want me to read into the final determination resolution?
No, before that,
Okay.
we've started 92% of the agencies on our audit plan, that's 44 of 48 for this year. However, some of these audits, there's a couple of them that may be trickling in from last year. And, you know, we have no control over how long agencies take when they go into compliance, but we've been trying to help them achieve compliance faster and talk them through, and Jen's been really instrumental in that. So, the agencies that you're gonna vote on today at this segment are, there's 11 final determinations up for vote. Jen will,
It says 12.
I'm looking at the wrong agenda.
I don't know, I have 12. Starting with the teacher's retirement system.
Something, I don't know where I got that one from.
That was when I sent it on Friday, it's since updated.
Okay, so we have 12 agencies, up for vote for the final determinations, and, Commissioner.
I'm gonna read them. Up for final
Pass them on.
determination, resolution 2019 AP/233-041, teachers retirement system. Resolution 2019 AP/233-907, housing development corporation. Resolution 233-102, New York City City Council. Bless you. Resolution 2019 AP/233-126, Department of Cultural Affairs. Resolution 2019 AP/233-831, Business Integrity Commission. Resolution 2019 AP/233-004, Campaign Finance Board. Resolution 2019-233-059, Board of Standard and Appeals. Resolution 2019/233-901, Office of the New York City District Attorney. Resolution 219/233-156, Taxi and Limousine Commission. Resolution 219 AP/233-312, Conflicts of Interest Board. Resolution 219/233-801, Small Business Services. Resolution 2019-233-866, Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. I will take a vote on all of those 12. All in favor? I need, no, first I need,
approve.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And can we note the recusal from the council and myself?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
So, we're passing the resolutions around,
Please.
you can
Yes, got it. They're over there, right?
We
There.
haven't gotten to them yet.
Oh, they're on their way.
Commissioner.
Okay, fine. Compliance update.
So as Sharice mentioned, we are plugging along with the 2019 audit plan. We had 3 outstanding agencies that were from the 2018 audit plan. Those were the follow-up audits. We have successfully gotten 2 of them into compliance, and those resolutions are on the agenda for today.
That's fantastic.
Which leaves one agency that their compliance monitoring ends this month. I don't think it's going to be in, I don't think they're going to be in compliance. We've discussed this in the past, there's been a change of administration, they're kind of in flux right now. So we are working with the EEO officer to try to get some things in compliance, but I don't think they're going to achieve compliance,
Is that Queens?
yes. So I'm not sure how we want to proceed with that, but regardless of that particular agency,
Is the district attorney having been elected in position yet?
and from what I've been told, there might be some additional changes in staff when that person starts. It's a possibility. I don't know, obviously, any specifics or for sure, so.
Should, well, I don't know what, it's a very unusual situation. So my question is, should we deal with it in an atypical manner and then continue to extend compliance? I don't know the answer to my question, I'm just raising it.
We have to see what their response is at the end of the month.
Yeah, we can, I mean, the options are continue compliance for an additional months or issue a certificate of partial compliance and then revisit them. Those are really the options that we have at this point.
We'll revisit this at the end of the month.
Okay, then we
When
just
we-
hold it and hold it for the next meeting. Does our next meeting is when they need to respond?
They will have responded by our next meeting, yes.
What I think we should do is, how many, I don't think we should give them an extension before we see their output
No, I agree with that.
through the period.
And there are some updates that have been made that I would like to discuss with you
When the meeting's over.
when the meeting is over, that might eliminate some of the corrective actions based upon their efforts they've been undertaking.
You know, but I'm just raising it as a possibility,
So that's the only 2018
I mean,
audit plan.
I don't think they're taking advantage. I think they have a real problem.
There's just a lot of flux going on in terms of management and because
The
of the
management's
situation.
been
Yes,
the management's been
so-
changed after, what was he there, for 30 years?
I feel like he was there even longer. He was there for a very, very long time. And now there's an acting who's basically assumed the role, but is not going to be there necessarily permanently in that role, so it's hard
No,
to
it's-
effectuate agency-wide change when the leader of the agency is in flux, so. But that is the only 2018 audit plan agency that is still in compliance monitoring. All the other 2018 audits have been completed, and are done with compliance monitoring. Of the 2019, you'll see that you just voted on final determinations for 12 agencies. 5 of them are also already in compliance. So you'll be voting on those compliance resolutions as well today because they,
Completed it.
from the time of the issuance of the FD, within 1 month, they were able to achieve compliance. We do have an additional 7 agencies in compliance monitoring right now from the 2019 audit plan. Probably get another 3 or 4 by the end of the month. And we have issued 33 preliminary determinations, 30 final determinations, and we're working on the additional 11 audits as we speak. So I think we're in really good shape. And I know that the audit team is really working hard. They're taking this mandate very seriously. We have a good system and a good group, and I think that we are going to have a lot more accomplished even by the end of the year. We still have another quarter left, so.
Is the
Excellent.
technology
Yeah.
helping?
I do think that
Yes.
the processes are definitely more streamlined. At the end of the audit, we can go through and get some feedback as what worked, what can be tweaked. But I do think that overall, having the the more auto-generated templates has helped with a lot of the ministerial work that was taking up the time of the analysts as opposed to being able to do the analysis and do the audits, so.
Is there, do we need any further technological aid? That's, it just, as we were talking about a strategic plan, we did not talk about, efficient, we're talking about mission here, but is there anything more that would make you more efficient, that will allow you to undertake greater research?
We have some, we're currently doing a request to OMB. We're updating some things in this very conference room. Some
Well, I
of
just wanted you to think about it. That's
yes,
it,
some
rather
of the
than-
software that we're using, things like that.
You know, I'm just, it seems to me that is part of the, strategic plan proposal.
Yes.
It's not a,
Well, all of it's gonna have to ultimately include staffing and technology.
Yeah.
In addition to whatever the greater idea was, so, yeah,
I just,
you can build on that.
alrighty, I'm up to compliance update. I'm going to read under A, compliance resolutions. I have 11, is that correct? Okay. Resolution 2019 AP 233-831, Business Integrity Commission. Didn't I just read about them? Yes, I did.
Yes, they were one of the agencies that were able to have their final determination and complete compliance in 1 month. So we have 5 of them.
Wow.
Yes.
Resolution
There's a, no,
2019.
Like an extra sticker people send.
Yes, they should get a gold star.
Yes, they were great.
Resolution 2019 AP 233-477, Brooklyn
Perfect.
Community Board 7. Resolution 2019 AP 233-473, Brooklyn Community Board 3. Resolution 2018 AP 233-942, Office of the Bronx County Public Administrator. Resolution 2019 AP/233-126, Department of Cultural Affairs. Resolution 2018 AP, Office of the Richmond County Public Administrator. Resolution 2019 AP 233-901, Office of the New York County District Attorney. Resolution 2019 233-907, Housing Development Corporation. Resolution 2019 AP 233-156, Taxi and Limousine Commission, that's another one. Resolution 2019 AP 233-944, 29 C 34, Office of the Queens County Public Administrator. Resolution 2019/233-004, 2019 Campaign Finance Board. I will take a resolution supporting, vote,
Motion?
but I need an approval. Anybody vote?
I move to
All
approve
approved.
all of these resolutions.
Seconded,
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, I have down on my, agenda adjournment. Is there any other new business? Anything else anybody wants to say?
Can we confirm the next meeting date?
Confirm the next meeting date.
I believe it's October 31st, Halloween.
Halloween? Should we have a Halloween
Oh
party?
my God.
Come in costume.
It's not a nice meeting here.
You can dress as a commissioner.
No, I can dress like a witch, I thought.
October 31st.
I believe it's October 31st.
It is.
Because that's
Then November 21st and then December 19th.
Oh, sorry, 10/31, what was the, November?
10/31.
21, and December
19th.
19th.